Hi, this is the Big Brains by Innvocon, wherein we discuss with the entrepreneurs and other relevant industry stakeholders about all things business, entrepreneurship, startups, and the future of work. And today, the guest for the day, we have Mr. Tauseef Khan, the co-founder and CEO of Gramophone. Thanks a lot, Tauseef, and it's great to have you on the show today.
Hey, thanks, Taranjeet, for having me on the show here. Thank you.
So, this conversation I thought would be really interesting and exciting because we can really get to know into the story of how you conceived the idea of Gramophone and how did you meet your co-founders at Ahmedabad. So, if I could just ask you to throw some light about on your introduction, your background, and your industry experience, and how did you conceive the idea of Invocon and meeting Nishant and Hashit eventually?
Hey, hi. Yes, so I think the story goes back way back in 2005. Nishant and I studied together at IIT Kharagpur. Then we worked at our first job we did at John Deere for 2009 to 2012, and post that it so like happened that both of us again like studied at IIM Ahmedabad, and Harshit, we met Harshit there, so he was our batchmate at IMA, and having spent like significant of amount of time in agriculture, both working, education. Post IMA also, I was with a fund investing in agriculture as one of the key areas, and we invested in quite a few companies, looked at 100 plus investment companies for startup investments. And this is around 2014-15, where agri-tech per se was just like coming up. There were very few companies who were working in the space, and the investment scenario at that point of time was not that like great. So we had a basic like hypothesis that smartphone penetration in rural India would also increase. Plus, if we look at the productivity levels of India and compare it with the larger, there are two types of countries, I would say. One where the farming is more large scale farming, and then there are countries like China, India, and most more Southeast Asian countries where there is small scale farming, and most of the farmers are small, medium, in the range of maybe 1 hectare to 4 5 hectares. The problems remains that most of the times our productivities in almost like cereal grains are 30 to 40% lower, and fruits and vegetables are actually way lower.
Right.
And if we look at the problem like statement, a lot of times this is linked to size of land, structural other problems around average income per farmer. But in totality, I think the large problem that is the decision making for farmers, more of building a solution which basically guides them across the cropping life cycle at different stages, making the more decisions which are on heuristics, local like knowledge, making it more scientific and building a solution for that. So that's how was the basic thought behind Gramophone, that if we are able to do it, it's a 300 to 400 billion dollar agri output market which comes out, but the entire like thing can be actually increased by at least 30 to 40%, and which is the need of the hour for longer term as well. So with this thought, we started Gramophone, that will create a ecosystem wherein we uh, basically enable farmers to make the right decisions to buy products, and agri inputs is something which is actually in control of the farmer except for the weather
Right.
parameters. If you make it more scientific there as well, you can actually enable them to improve their income by at least 50%,
Right.
if not double it. So with that thought process, we started the company in 2016, and today we have spent almost like 7 years working in this space, have 2.5 million farmers who are using the platform in one way or the other.
Absolutely. So, let's start from the very beginning, something to pull out from your introduction of Gramophone. So, very interesting to know, and would be very interesting to know from you that how did you convince the farmers, or how did you win the trust of the initial customers to trust Gramophone as their go-through partner or go-through agri expert when other resources like Kisan Seva Kendra, Kisan Helpline, they already existed?
See, I think nothing like happens overnight. We were pretty much aware that yes, this would be a platform which would scale through technology, but nothing beats on ground like work. So when we went, we decided like on a lot of parameters which state we should start the company from. So we arrived at Madhya Pradesh. I and Nishant, both of us actually are from UP. We knew nobody in MP. We shifted to Indore over there, and the first couple of years were largely a lot of work on ground, doing farmer meetings, talking about what actually we wanted to do, and it needed local like presence. So we had people hired them from the local like geographies, built inroads over there, did on ground like meeting, and then there were very few early believers that okay, these guys have left their job, come from cities like Bangalore, Mumbai. Let's give them some a chance. So this was more that way. So this I'm talking about 2016 when we were just two of us and we hired like a couple of other guys. So that's how we started, and we focused on a lot of like offline work, on ground work for the first 2 seasons, and this actually built us a network of around 3 to 4 thousand farmers
Fantastic.
at that point of time, and
Fantastic.
we were actually like getting a lot of calls for solutions, and we had a small like call center with just one like person over there actually, and Nishant and myself used to be on ground most of the times. Actually, if there was any like problem or any order, we used to actually just take that over a call, and if there were nearby any shop, we used to procure the material there and then go and supply it. So that's how it started, and gradually then once we built maybe a base of 100 200 kind of transacting like farmers out of those 3000 farmers, um, revenues started like coming in, and then we basically started hiring more people. But it was around 2017-18 that we had scaled it up to a level that we could see that there is something over here, and that's when we raised our seed like round, and we built a 20-member team and started building our tech architecture over there so that we could scale it up. So it's all actually on ground work, and a lot of it, almost like 100%, was offline. But then
Fantastic.
from there it is gradually moved in the other like direction.
Fantastic. So again, a question, something related to my last one. So given your experience of over a decade now in the agri and agri-tech industry, what changes have you seen along your journey in the tech penetration or technology adoption in rural India? Means how tech savvy has the Indian farmer become?
See, I think we need to look at Indian farmers in there are layers in it. So there is an interesting, um, I would say, data that almost 68% of farmers are very marginal actually,
Right.
who have less than maybe half an acre of land. And typically, this, if you convert into earnings per farmer of this segment, it translates it into approximately like $300 per year.
Yeah.
So if I largely look at this lot of farmers, typically agriculture is not the primary source of income for them. It is just sustenance, and would maybe not the entire like lot of farmers are where uh, the penetration of smartphone or technology is yet to like uh, play. But if we look at it from a business point of view, that where is the market, who are the people who are buying agri inputs, or where the larger output is coming in from. In terms of land distribution, if you look at it, this 68% of farmers actually owns approximately 20% to 24% land in India,
Right.
while the remaining 32% farmers own somewhere around 75% of land in India. So that's where the entire input business is. Unfortunately, um, the marginal farmers actually have very uh, there the penetration of tech will take more time. But if you look at the 30 to 32% farmers, there the farmers already have smartphones,
Right.
they're already tech savvy, they're already educated, and that's the lot of farmers whose primary source of income is agriculture, because they have enough land that they can make agriculture as their primary source. So, in my sense, this is the farmer group who is already there on various forms of technology, even a Google search, a YouTube video. Even you can today's day see them using a lot of applications. So if you target this segment of farmers, that's where the entire like business is. And if you look at even the social structure of rural India, the social structure is such that typically it's this middle lot where the penetration of any technology, right, in form of the quality seeds, right usage of fertilizers, and in today's world, digital technology, these are the users who first use it. And in the social strata, the segment which is very small hold farmers, they pick it up from them. So if you basically penetrate these kind of things within this lot, then it will over a period of time naturally penetrate further. So that's how
Absolutely.
we look at it market. So to answer your question in short, I think it's not a matter of whether it will happen or not happen. It has already happened. We already have more than 300 million users of internet in rural India. Where are they? It's a bit between this lot, and that's where the entire like input output business is also concentrated, because
Right.
this is almost 80% of land is there.
Absolutely. So, a question again on the similar line, means Gramophone, you founded it in 2016, and the, I would say, telecom boom, right when the Geo started giving the 4G internet at such a mass scale, it was something around July 2016 again. So, how did it, the entire telecom boom help you to scale up or help you to grow the idea of Gramophone in rural India? First, second being, how do you encourage or how did you encourage the farmers to keep using your application over a period of time? Because I believe retention is more important and way more difficult than acquiring new customers.
Sure. So I think if I would look at it, so we timed the industry pretty like right actually. Um, uh, I think 2016, 17, 18, it took like 2, 3 years for that penetration to happen.
Right.
We started focusing on digital adoption directly by the farmers somewhere around 2018, 19. And that's where today, I think if I look at the numbers, almost 50% comes from direct like usage. And um, uh, and this at this point of time, uh, overall penetration has definitely like increased, but if you look at the way in which is it is being done, it's more of a ecosystem like approach. So you have to like involve the existing players like the input retailers on the platform. They are the people who are actually directly connected with the farmers already. If they adopt a lot of like tech based solutions where they can manage their set of farmers themselves over the platform, then it accelerates faster. So first phase for us was actually over a phone call where we built tech for our internal consumption, more of a CRM plus a crop life cycle management tool for our people who could basically manage a group of farmers and give them advice plus sell them products in a better way. And then the
Right.
second phase was basically people on ground who we work with. There are a lot of micro entrepreneurs. We built digital tools for them so that they could manage their operations at the last mile in a better way. In the third phase, actually, we started penetrating the smartphone application within the farmer base. And that's a continuous process. We are doing it. But it is being accelerated now by onboarding the existing like retailers because they already have a network of 1,000 to 1,500 farmers with it with one like retailer. You can quickly like drive adoption from there, and you enable these guys to actually do their advisory practices but much better, make them a better doctor,
Okay.
and use the distribution which is already set up.
Absolutely. So, a question, something related to the startup ecosystem altogether in India specifically. So, how do you see the capital or the funding environment changing in India? How has it changed in the last 1 year? And specifically, if you talk about the agri-tech industry, how has it affected the agri-tech industry altogether?
See, I think it's a global like phenomena. We understand that there has been a lot of like money because of interest rates which went down significantly uh, around the COVID and post-COVID time. A lot of money came in the entire startup ecosystem, and over the last like I would say 18 months to 24 months period of time, it has slowed down and it has basically affected the growth plans for a lot of like companies. But people are overall going for now building a sustainable business sooner than later, and I feel it's a good um, uh, thing that that correction is happening, and so that's a general like phenomena. We are seeing that people are focusing on revenues around margins, profitability, and wanting to do it sooner than over maybe a 3 4 years period of time. That's general phenomena that has happened. But if we look at it from a agri-tech perspective, I think in agri-tech, it was around 2019-20 that significant amount of money started like coming in, and in that phase a lot of people here as well built the businesses more on top line revenues, and with an objective that eventually you would build the bottom line as well. But that has short circuited over the last like 1 year period of time for a sector which is more than $400 billion. The kind of like money that has come in, if you compare it with e-commerce or maybe like ride hailing or even food tech delivery, it's still like minuscule that is there for this
Right.
kind of a sector. Is and we still see that the digitization journey in this space has happened for probably like less than 1% of the entire volume of commerce which is being done, and then there are allied like products and companies around that. So there is still like a lot of headroom that I see in this entire like space, and its digitization is inevitable even if at a 10% level you it is achieved from here. I see there are multiple like companies which would build up with um, $1 billion plus like kind of outcomes. Um, so the focus for companies today in the agri space has is again like anybody else is shifting to profitability, and we are seeing like good progress over there. And over the next like few quarters, I feel a lot of companies will be able to actually manage the growth and the bottom line as well.
Absolutely. So you mentioned profitability, so it's the right time to mention that how did Gramophone achieve the overall profitability? Became EBITDA positive. So what was the detailed plan? I mean, still maintaining the bottom line, maintaining the growth trajectory, and without compromising even with the employer brand that our audience would be more interested about, and becoming the first agri-tech startup to become profitable.
See, Taranjeet, I think it's a process that's already still like happening. So we saw profitability at a month level, right? That's where the peak like business happens. But we had never seen that before over the last 7 years of our journey. And we are still like probably a few quarters away from 100% EBITDA like positive. But in that journey, I think the focus has been more on growing the business, which is uh, where we see expansion of margins. And there is a logic towards that, where we see that you can derive more operational leverage from the same like cost structures that you have. And this we have achieved by without for a lot of like expansion in top line like growth. So it's a significant improvement in margins plus cost structures. So I think basic business fundamentals to run the business, and the only thing that has happened over the last like 3 to 4 quarters is that we were already working on all these aspects, that what are the margin like levers and why we should unleash it at a particular point of time. You need to have a strong distribution so that you can have uh, uh, meaningful enough
Right.
revenues where your corporate costs and other operating costs can be basically amortized. And once that was achieved, then the larger goal was to change the margin structures. So that's what, and that also needed a lot of work in terms of working on private labels, working on companies where we have stronger like tie-ups, relationships, going deeper in the geographies, managing the logistics like cost, driving it through tech where your operational costs are lower. So it's actually a journey which we have traveled inch by inch. It's a sector where, and you are in a retail business, so you have to always focus on getting at least a double digit like gross margins. So we have achieved that, and by that, and plus the other like operating leverages coming in together, we have been able to do it for probably this year. We will do it for 3 to 4 months, and next year from May onwards, I think we are targeting the entire like year profitability.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, the question something I believe which our core audience would like to relate to. What were the initial challenges you faced while um, onboarding the talent and retailing the talent during the initial years of Gramophone?
See, I think for us, the good part was that uh, uh, since we came from the agri like sector, from a top management perspective, we were pretty much sorted because we had a very good like network in the entire agri community. So we have best of the talent over there. And once you've sorted that layer, then I think you get the middle and the ground level staff through that layer. So it was,
Right.
and we were involved in the entire like business on a day-to-day basis, working with the team. So the entire culture has been pretty like good. So people like working because they get freedom to do what they do, experiment in this space. I think that is something which is missing in the entire space in itself. So it we have seen that people who had joined us in 2016, 17, 18 are still there with us. Almost like I think 80%, 90% of the top like level guys are still there with us. So that's part of the culture that you develop. That's part of the entire thought process that the company is about generating like value for stakeholders, and farmer is one of the primary like stakeholders. And with that thing, I think it's solved. But if we look at from a rural or a hiring which is more regional in nature, we've seen that uh, a lot of platforms have not been very useful for us, especially for the on ground like stuff. and that's where primarily referrals and hiring a local area manager and then building the team over there was something which I think has contributed almost like 80% of the on ground staff growth, because we are talking about very regional teams, districts which are I think nobody would have heard of. But if we talk about the top talent, then yes, we've been able to basically hire them again through reference, but a lot of times multiple like platforms have helped us over there.
Absolutely. Second question on the similar line is tech talent, onboarding the tech talent. So, how interested or excited are the techies about means doing a transition to the agri sector or joining the agri sector altogether? Means if they're joining from e-commerce, if they're joining from FMCG, how excited are they to switch from one sector to the agri tech?
See, I think that is for technology, the products remains the same, right? It's the TG that changes. So
Yeah,
there are the same order management system you would require, or the same inventory management system you would require, but there will be local dynamics, local, I would say, sectoral thought processes or needs. So that's what you have to customize for. But otherwise, basic principles remains the same running agri business or any other like business. Uh, Localization, regional languages. From a product perspective, if you look at it, you have to actually dumb it down significantly, make it very user like friendly, and assume that the farmer would not be able to like actually um, understand the things which urban user would. So, from a tech talent hiring, I think one thing that we look for is if somebody actually has some kind of a rural background, that helps in understanding the basics. But I think we have put together people and send them on ground with our field like team to make them understand how things actually work. And it's actually uh, the willingness of the person that we look at than saying that there is whether they have some kind of exposure or anything else, because we had also not worked in the input like sector or did actual like on ground work. We learned over a 3 4 years period of time, so that's what we believe, and that's what we look at as an attitude in the person who is joining in this space. And rest, a lot of things have been like economics for the people over the last 2020 I think everybody has struggled to hire like tech talent, but now the market has actually like corrected, and I think is coming to back to normal.
yeah, absolutely. So, coming back to technology in agriculture, I have a data with me that India spends a total of an average of 22.5 thousand crores on agri innovations annually. That's a mere per capita of rupees 187.5 uh, or $2.50. So, what needs to be done? There is a significant gap still. So, what needs to be done so that we can cement technology at the core as the centrifugal force um, of the agri economies and growth in India? How can we increase the penetration or adoption of technology in the rural Bharat?
See, I think uh, a lot of times we obsess over that tech will solve everything. I think the rural India is a little different. Uh, you need to think about what is meaningful tech. Uh, Maybe just an operational like flow where people were doing things on pen and paper, digitize it and make the data more like available at the last mile. So that is something which I think solves a lot of like problem. So if we look at adoption overall, it's increasing very fast. I think we were at 3%, 4% farmer adoption
Right.
somewhere around 2020. It has come to around 40, 45% right now. So I believe the usefulness of solutions is something which people have to work on. Rest of the things will take care of in itself. Uh, a lot of times, if you talk about how would a marginal like farmer come in on technology, I feel that is more of a structural and economic like problem. Uh, uh, you have to actually increase the income levels um, of these like class of uh, farmers, and until and unless that happens, penetration over there in direct usage will not come. They will use it via existing players, a physical setup which is digitized. So that's the way penetration of tech will happen in rural India, and I think it's a matter of time, not anything else. To accelerate it, you can have more programs which basically talk about it, more education and learning how people can benefit from such kind of systems, why they should do agriculture in a more scientific way, what's the potential, and that's the role probably the local government ecosystem, other like social enterprises, those guys would play a role. But if you talk about people like us, we are already doing our job, and a lot of times time is a factor, and agriculture and penetration of like internet tech is already at an inflection point where I think the usage is increasing year on year.
Fantastic. So, how do you see the industry evolving overall? Means agri-tech, the contribution of startups, and such solutions coming out to solve the grassroots problems. And how do you see the overall agriculture evolving in India in 5 years horizon?
In 5 years horizon, we will see at least like 15 to 20 like applications which are maybe at least 10 million like users, um, and people actually like evolving. So today, a lot of like solutions are more built where there is basic workflows built. Intelligence is low in terms of local like weather conditions changing like the information that you are providing to a farmer, and doing it at scale. There are like systems technology is already there, but penetration is not there. I think over the next 5 years, what I would see is that there will be a lot of intelligence that would come on into these like products, where it is more personalized, probably at a village level, a plot level. Today, first degree of building those farm management solution or crop life cycle management solutions, companies like have us already done it. And then there, I see a cross collaboration between a company which has digital and physical infrastructure where there are a lot of users, and then there is deep tech, which where are companies which are working in more deeper tech, uh, more on satellite imageries, or real time precision agriculture for farmers, which is actually not IoT driven, I would say. Because in India, I don't see a large penetration of that happening because of cost like considerations, but partnerships between a company which has farmer engagement because of commerce and advisory, and digital and physical distribution for transaction of goods, uh, between such a company and a company which is specifically working on building like crop algorithms, uh, building like forecasts for pest and diseases, building far forward like estimates of output. These two linkages will happen in the next like 3 to 4 years period of time, and you would see smarter solutions for farmers. Secondly, I would see that a lot of companies today working would scale up significantly from here because that journey of building the basics foundation has already happened. And lastly, I think uh, a lot of like allied innovations we have already started seeing on the segments which are towards greener like chemistries for input segment. On the output side, I think we are yet to see a player which basically has solved the problems at the farmer level. There also, I think some of these companies will evolve and integrate the backend procurement plus creating marketplace for actual like transactions happening digitally. Some of it would happen. I don't see a major like change over there. I think on that side of the entire like space, it would be more commerce like driven, and I think the solving the backend is still like a big challenge over there.
Absolutely. Fantastic insights. So, last question before we close down the session is how do you see or how do you envision gramophone evolving to these changes and what exciting the industry can see in the coming days from or expect from gramophone?
See, I think one part of it is I've already told that the our vision is to basically move the farmers from the way they do like to farming today more towards precision agriculture. We believe it will happen a little differently in India, but it will happen, and we would want to be the solution provider, the powerhouse of that. We want actually today we have probably 1.5 million plus like acres of crops that is managed on our like platform. We would want to take it to at least a 10 million kind of a number, and now we are engaging into building the platform more feedback driven. That I want the personal like goal for us actually is that there should be at least 1 million like farmers who should the, by data back like numbers we should have that they have increased their income by 50%. I think that's the largest like goal for us, and make it more data based. The application system should be able to evolve into that way. I think that is one basic thing for us. Rest everything's our means to actually like achieve this goal.
Fantastic. So, thanks a lot, Tauseef. Great interacting with you. I had been looking forward to this conversation since a while, and eventually we got to have a conversation in detail about the agri-tech industry in India. What are the problems? How you are solving them, and what are the future prospects about for the talent to jump into the industry and make a great future about it and contribute to the grassroots solving the grassroots level problems of India. So thanks a lot. It was pleasure having you and hosting you on today's show.
Thanks, Taranjeet. Thank you.
Thank you.